Let me turn up the volume and make sure that the chat is on. But we're going to talk about Jehovah's Witnesses and their identity, how the governing body making all these frantic moves have eliminated the need for watchtowers. Look, I got to turn that down. I'm getting feedback. Yeah, I'm getting feedback. All right. All right, we got a few people here with us. And let me make sure the chat is active. Oh, hold on, let me. All right, it should be active there. All right, hello everyone. Hello. We're going to talk about what I think is a very interesting topic, and that is with all the changes going on, what's up? It's just me. With all the changes going on with Watchtower, Watchtower has eliminated its own usefulness, its own necessity. It's almost like a person having a job. Oh, I'm looking at Serenity, and her hand went straight through my whole jacket. So my jacket's toe up. My last album, somebody let me know. I didn't know I had an album out. Somebody said my last album sucked. But yeah, I didn't know I had an album out. Maybe you got me confused with somebody else. But we're going to talk about Watchtower eliminating its own usefulness. Because originally, you had to have Watchtower because Watchtower was the one and only true channel. If you guys can go back in time with me, you'll remember that. Watchtower was the one and only true channel. So if you would have asked yourself back in the day, well, why are you a Jehovah's Witness? The people here that have been Jehovah's Witnesses, if you would have asked yourself a long time ago, why are you a Jehovah's Witness? Why here? You would have probably said, because it's the truth, and something to the effect of, we're the only ones, we're the only true organization because God is literally directing the governing body. Now, they eliminated that. They eliminated that. And part of the reason why they eliminated that was the heat that was brought on by the Australian Royal Commission. If you remember, you had a governing body member there at the Australian Royal Commission, and he said, well, it would be presumptuous for us to say that we're the one and true only religion. So they backed off of that, right? They don't want the authorities to know what they're telling Jehovah's Witnesses. So when they backed off of that, and they're no longer God's channel, literally, not only did you have a governing body member back off of it at the Australian Royal Commission, but I remember Loesch, one of the governing body members, he had a talk, and he said, yeah, we're not inspired. We're not infallible. We're not getting nothing from Jehovah. You know what I mean? We're just figuring this stuff out ourselves. So once they did that, Watchtower's identity changed. It's like literally you changed your identity. Now, the only real reason to be a Jehovah's Witness or to be a part of Watchtower's organization, I would have said back then, well, if the governing body is no longer inspired or infallible, well, they ain't getting stuff right from Jehovah. Well, it's no longer God's one and only true organization because they changed all that. So then the preaching work would have been the only other reason after they just eliminated the whole one and only true organization thing to be a part of Watchtower, the preaching work, going door to door. Well, we have to go door to door, and we have to go door to door in such a way that we have these territories and we go around the blocks and we do it every Saturday and during the week and whatnot. Well, COVID came. First, the Australian World Commission changes Jehovah's Witnesses, and then COVID massively changed Jehovah's Witnesses because Watchtower went with the secular governments and pushing the whole vaccine, right? And they stopped the preaching work. They stopped going door to door. I remember specifically the preaching work was going door to door. They would use the scripture where the people would go from house to house and say, this is how God wants it done. The preaching work. Because Mormons do it, and a lot of other people do it. Well, the reason why people were part of Watchtower or joined that cult was because they felt like they were doing the preaching work correctly. Because you had a scripture where people were going door to door. Now, we know that they misread that scripture because they didn't read the context. But they believed the only way to go door to door was the way they were doing it, which is from house to house. COVID changed that. Another major identity of Jehovah's Witnesses. COVID changed that. Got some unsweetened iced tea here. So Watchtower is like the lady that you go out with her, and then she takes off her wig, and then she takes off her teeth, and all you see is gum. It's like the identity is changing in front of everybody. No longer God's one and only true channel. And also, the whole door-to-door stopped. They tried to get by saying, we're still doing the preaching work because we're writing letters. You guys and I both know the preaching work was never writing letters. We would write letters only because it was the only way to get in to certain communities, certain gated communities where we couldn't get in. For some reason I can't see the chat here. But the only reason we would use letter writing or phone witnessing was for areas that we could not get into, because Jehovah wanted us to go door to door. How do we know that? Because in the Bible, you remember, Serenity's sitting over there, you remember that scripture that they would always use for the door to door, where they would say the apostles would go specifically from house to house? And then they would say that's the first service. Peter, though. But they would say that was the first service meeting. They would say that those people in the Bible were Jehovah's Witnesses, and that was the first service meeting because they were going from door to door in that scripture. We don't remember the exact scripture. But they changed it. So that's another major part of Watchtower that changed. The preaching work would have been one reason why people would have said, well, we need Watchtower. Well, I ain't seen nobody go door to door in a long time. It's been years since I've seen people go door to door. The only time I've seen people go door to door was when they were giving out invites to the memorial, which of course ain't nobody going to that. I wasn't going to that. I wasn't going there to watch them pass no daggum crackers around. Yeah, I don't know why I can't see the chat on this thing. Acts 20:20, but it was only Paul that said he was going door to door. Okay, so Acts 20:20. Bonnie remembered it. Somebody said they got disfellowshipped at 7 years old. When they disfellowshipped my 7-year-old, but among with my mother, I knew God did not live there, and I would never be JW. Probably what she's saying, or she or he is saying, is their mother got disfellowshipped, and even though they were 7 years old, they probably shunned them too. They shunned them both. That's what they do. Because I can't imagine a 7-year-old doing something worth getting disfellowship for. But what do we need Watchtower for? What if I were to say I was a, which we wouldn't say that, but what if I were to say I was a Jehovah's Witness? What would a cult member from Watchtower be able to say? Because the only reason for them to be a part of that cult now, that they're no longer inspired by God, the governing body's not inspired, so they're just a bunch of men. That's not necessary. The preaching work, they ain't been going door to door. And according to Acts, that was the whole reason why they were doing it, was because that's how they did it in the Bible. They stopped doing that. You know what I mean? The only other reason to be a part of the cult, the only reason that cult would be necessary at that point would be the only identity that Jehovah's Witnesses have left, and that's the word Jehovah. That they think that there is this big conspiracy and everybody all together, all at once, everybody that ever translated the Bible, they all decided that they were going to take the word Jehovah out of the Bible. And what did Jehovah's Witnesses say? The word Jehovah is in the Bible like a whole bunch of times, and they took it all out. Well, that would be the only identity that Jehovah's Witnesses have left, because the end of the world predictions all failed. Hey, godly beard, the end of the world predictions all failed. That was a reason that people were a part of Watchtower. They thought Watchtower could predict the end of the world. And that the reason why they could predict the end of the world is because God was literally inspiring the governing body, giving them the ability to decode the Bible. Dark, masculine, karmic. That's good someone sent you my live so that you can join it. But we're talking about Watchtower has eliminated its own job. Have you ever seen somebody at work and they are eliminating the need for their own job? And you're just looking at them like you're crazy. You're going to get fired because you are eliminating the reason the company has to employ you. Watchtower has eliminated the reason Jehovah's Witnesses need it. The predictions of the end of the world, you had to be a part of Watchtower because they knew when it was going to come. They had all the inside knowledge. You didn't want to be outside of Watchtower when the end came. Yes, I'm an ex-Jehovah's Witness. Very much, very much. double X Jehovah's Witness, triple X Jehovah's Witness, quadruple X, the opposite of a Jehovah's Witness. So if you eliminate their ability to predict the end of the world, so talking about the end of the world is around the corner, all that stuff failed. Who was it? Stephen Lett, who was on the broadcast talking about, and you can't mistake this, when he said, the predictions are made because the same MFs who was told by God long ago. Well, they changed that, dark masculine karmic. They say they're no longer inspired nor infallible, meaning they're no longer the one true channel directly to God. They admitted that they're not that. You take that away, you take away the door-to-door preaching work, for the most part. We don't see Jehovah's Witnesses out door-to-door. You take away their ability to predict the whole end of the world Armageddon mess. They don't have that ability because Stephen Lett got on not alive, but a broadcast and said we were at the last minute of the last second of the last hours of the last days. Right? And the end ain't came yet. So Stephen Lett was wrong. So they can't predict the end of the world because they're not inspired nor infallible. They can't predict the end of the world no more than anybody else could. So you eliminate that, you have eliminated Watchtower's reason for being there. The only other thing that you have, the only thing that Jehovah's Witnesses have right now is an identity, because they're wearing beards. You ain't even got to have no high-level dress code to go in no Kingdom Hall no more. You don't need no ties, women wearing pants, everything. The only identity Jehovah's Witnesses have is the word Jehovah. That's it. That's it. That's the only identity that they have is the word Jehovah. You took away everything else. Watchtower is taking away its own job. It is eliminated. It was their job to be the one true channel. It was their job to direct the door-to-door work. It was their job to be able to predict when the end of the world was coming and Armageddon was near. You eliminate all three of them jobs. Well, explain why, Mr. Rivas. Somebody said they want me to explain my belief. We'll get to that in a little bit. I like when people are able to explain their position. I don't know who Mr. Rivas is saying is an idiot, but we'd like to see him explain why on the chat here. So what happens when you eliminate your own job, your own usefulness? Jehovah's Witnesses don't even need Watchtower anymore. You can use the word Jehovah and not be a part of Watchtower. Therefore, you can be a Jehovah's Witness and not be a part of Watchtower. Watchtower is just collecting the money at this point. They done already got booted out of Russia. They can't do a global preaching work because they're not even legal everywhere because of their own stupidity. Let's look at the chat over here. Where I can read it. Deuteronomy 18:22. If the prophet speaks in the Lord's name, but his prediction does not happen or come true, you will know that the Lord did not give that message. That's right, Hannah. That is correct. Not only is that correct, but Watchtower has admitted that they're not inspired. So they're not a prophet. Think about the Mormon church. Think about the Mormon church. What is the reason for a person who believes So Joseph Smith was the founder of the Mormon Church. If a person believes Joseph Smith, what is the reason that they need to become a LDS Mormon? Well, the reason is because the church makes itself useful. The church, the Mormon church, says it has a prophet, and that prophet is inspired and it's not fallible. So for Mormons, they need to be a part of the Mormon church because they feel like they need it. There's a prophet there. Just like they believe Joseph Smith was a prophet, they believe they got a living prophet right now. Jehovah's Witnesses literally said, we're not inspired nor infallible. Well, what do we need you for? Not Jehovah's Witnesses, the governing body, but what do we need you for? COVID pretty much stopped the preaching work. Okay, well, what do we need you for? They can't predict the end of the world. They keep getting it wrong. What do people need Watchtower for? So literally, your relatives, and I'm about as anti-Jehovah's Witness as anybody could be. But if they wanted to, they could leave Watchtower and just keep the title Jehovah's Witnesses. If that's the only reason why they're there, if that's the only reason why they're a part of the cult has eliminated any other need for it, the governing body. There's literally no need for it. Literally, Jehovah's Witnesses, I guess the only thing they have to hang their hat on now that they can have 100% confidence in, because they can't have 100% confidence in the doctrine. A lot of people don't want to worship God. I mean, you can still participate in a discussion. Dark Masculine said he doesn't worship God. You don't have to go to a church to be a part of a discussion. Who is he? Somebody says Jehovah's Witnesses still follow even with the governing body stated they are not inspired. Is it ignorance or stupidity? What's the difference between ignorance and stupidity? So ignorance is a person
is when you just have a lack of knowledge. Stupidity is when you have the knowledge and do nothing with it.
Exactly. It will be more of stupidity because Jehovah's Witnesses know that the governing body flat out told them, hey, we're not inspired, guys. We can't guarantee our doctrine is right. And obviously they can't predict the end of the world. So why do people need the cult? That cult is the only cult, I think, on the planet Earth that would eliminate its own need for existence. I can guarantee you the Mormon church, I like Kim and Mikey also. I haven't talked to Mikey in a while, but I've talked to him on the phone. Somebody says, hey, that they recently announced that they aren't inspired. I must have missed this because I haven't been paying attention. Oh my, it wasn't recent. It was a while ago that they announced, literally announced. The governing body, wasn't it a broadcast where he said?
The latest one was in a broadcast.
Yeah.
It was that the bald one with the glasses. He's a newer member.
Oh, he did it again? Because I remember Loesch said it.
It was I forgot his name.
Splain said that?
Well, the newer one, he's small, very petite man, no hair, glasses.
I don't know who that is then.
And that was the same one where he said, we are not inspired nor infallible, nor do we need or feel the need to have to apologize.
Oh, he said that?
Yeah, all the same sentence. That was it.
Well, basically, so the whole not having the need to apologize. The only way that makes sense to me is that they said a long damn time ago that they weren't inspired. Loesch, if Loesch is still alive, Loesch was there at Bethel when I was at Bethel. That was a long time ago. So if Loesch is still alive and still a member of the governing body, he said it, and he said years ago, we're not inspired. We're not infallible. They told Jehovah's Witnesses that. They told Jehovah's Witnesses that means we can screw up because we just a bunch of men. We can screw up. You know what I mean? So that's the only way I could think it makes sense for a governing body member to say, okay, we don't feel the need to apologize because we keep telling y'all we ain't inspired. We telling y'all we don't know what the hell we doing. So if I
don't get things quite right, no, yeah, that's when they don't feel the need to even apologize when they don't get things quite right.
That's the only way that makes sense is Serenity saying that they said that they don't feel the need to apologize if they screw up a doctrine, if they get a doctrine wrong and they mislead millions of people. They don't feel the need to apologize. You should still apologize because if they were Christian, that would be the Christian thing to do. If I give somebody the wrong directions and I take them way out of their way and, waste their time and everything because I done told them something that's completely wrong, the polite thing to do would be to apologize, even if I told them, well, hey, I'm not quite sure, but I think you go this way about 2 miles and you go that way about 6 miles and you go that way about 8 miles. Just the fact that I told them the wrong information, even though I told them I'm not sure, I should still apologize. Bible, somebody said BS information before leaving Earth. Somebody else said, I firmly believe the governing body is a group of self-righteous psychopaths. I would agree with that. My experience at Bethel was all of them were cold. All of them were cold. Tony Morris was in my congregation, and we all know Tony Morris was cold. He's the one talking about people being burst open like hot dogs. These are the types of people who are running Watchtower, people who think like that. So my experience with Hurd was I walked up to Hurd, this is the only black governing body member. I walk up to him as a black Bethelite, and he don't even turn around. You know what I mean? He's more interested in the information board. He didn't even turn around. I'm standing there like, is he going to shake my hand? He didn't. He didn't. These people are stuck up and cold, and I think you are absolutely correct. They definitely teach you to ignore being a human. The threat of losing family. Well, that's the whole thing is Watchtower has changed the whole disfellowshipping thing, right? So here's my thing is if it's okay for Jehovah's Witnesses to talk to a disfellowship person. This is a person who, according to Watchtower, is spiritually sick, right? There's something wrong with them because they done did something that caused them to disfellowship. And that's the Jehovah's Witness teaching on it. If it's okay for you to say hello and be polite to them, why wouldn't it be okay for you to say hello and be polite to somebody that disassociated themselves, that ain't necessarily do anything wrong? That's what don't make sense to me. Because Watchtower's talking about, well, we still don't want you to talk to apostates. I don't understand the logic behind that because Watchtower is the one that's going against its own teachings. Watchtower is the one changing its own teachings. The only person, you know what I mean, that's on a wide scale affecting millions of people and going against Watchtower teaching all the time is Watchtower, where they're constantly changing stuff. So I don't understand the concept of that, you know what I mean? And it was always okay for Jehovah's Witnesses to go from door to door and talk to people who had different beliefs and, you know what I mean, didn't necessarily agree with them. I remember people having debates at the door back in the day. So if Watchtower felt it was okay for people to do that, why can't they talk to a relative that has a difference of opinion? It doesn't even make sense. Somebody asked Karmic if he's a Satanist. Yes, that's correct. Witnesses have flip-flopped on that since 1975. Remember your thoughts when you were there? Would you have given a disfellowship family member? Oh, that's a good point. I never did not. That's one thing anybody that's in my family can say. I never didn't talk to a disfellowship relative. And I went to Bethel and I never didn't talk to a disfellowship relative because I never thought Jehovah did not want me to speak to my own family member. I never thought that, even though it was a technically a rule, nobody ever enforced it with me. So I never did it. That's why I can't understand why other people do it. Why would they think a loving God would want you to treat your relatives worse than you would treat your dog? You know what I mean? I don't understand that whatsoever. You're supposed to have some kind of human empathy. For example, a mother, you know what I mean? A mother is supposed to instinctively be protective of her kids. Obviously, the father would be protective of the home, but you've heard the stories of a mother running outside and darn near lifting up a car because of the adrenaline rushing and one of her kids were underneath it. It should be darn near impossible for women who are Jehovah's Witnesses to shun their own kids. It should go against the very nature of what we think a woman is even capable of. But somehow they do it. Somehow they do it. And there's no reason for it. There is no reason for the whole shunning thing because when you really sit back and think about it, they're shrinking. Their numbers are shrinking. People are leaving regardless of the shunning. The shunning is not keeping people from leaving. The only thing the shunning is doing is pissing people off and causing more people to speak out about Watchtower. Somebody said, how would you answer dark masculine questions above? I didn't see the question.
I get them. I'm telling them right now, I get them.
Yeah, I didn't see the question, so I would answer it, but I did not see. He says, schools control the children, prisons control the fathers, and churches control the mothers. To an extent, those are institutions that influence. So, for example, schools influence children. Whether or not they control children is a whole nother thing because a lot of times you have kids cutting up in class, and one of the reasons is they're imitating their parents because the school will call their parent in and the parent will be more unruly than the kid. So to a certain extent, you know, schools influence, and then church influencing women. I don't know about that one. There I would say there's definitely some truth to that, but yeah, I don't know about that one. I really don't know about that one because To be 100% real, people do what they want to do regardless. They do what they want to do regardless. The church knows people going to do what they want to do regardless. That's why they go to church and clap and jump up and down, and Jesus just forgives everybody, because they know they've been at the club shaking that behind all Friday and then Saturday, and then came to church Sunday, and they still want that money coming in. So to a certain extent, the church lets a lot of stuff go. Watchtower is going to let a lot of stuff go because they want the money to come in, and they ain't even got no reason for existing at this point. What was the last thing? Prisons control fathers? I don't know about that one either. I don't really know about that one either. I guess if a person is in prison, it would control fathers. Those are some interesting thoughts. Those are definitely some interesting thoughts. But you have to agree that if the Mormon church came out and said, okay, our prophet's not a prophet, he's not inspired nor infallible, there would be no reason for people to be LDS, Latter-day Saints. They could say that they follow Joseph Smith and believe what he's taught, but there would be no reason for the cult. Just like with Watchtower, there's no reason for it. If I texted a relative and they always talk about they went to the hall and stuff like that, if I asked them, what's the reason? It would have to be that's their social circle. Because even a Baptist church is going to have an identity. You're going to go to a Baptist church and you're going to hear some good music, I tell you that. You're going to hear some good music. You're going to have people that are just shouting and able to scream their lungs out and do what they need to do to feel better psychologically. Like, you're going to have some kind of identity at a different church. Catholic church, you're going to have all the tradition. Jehovah's Witnesses done got rid of the whole freaking need for the whole organization. You don't need the governing body. You don't need, they're not directing the preaching work anymore like they were in the past. Just got people sitting next to carts, and the only people I see sitting next to carts are normally Latin or Mexican. Yeah, somebody said women wearing pants too. They're letting things go. Watchtower's letting things go. They're wanting the money to come in. The money is controlling Watchtower. Check out Bobby Hermit and Metaphysics. Is that a video? Somebody found an interesting video. Somebody's mom woke up. That's good. That is real good if somebody's mom woke up. But Watchtower is, even though they have eliminated their own identity and their own purpose for existing and not being inspired and not going door to door, not making that an emphasis, standing next to carts, that's not in the Bible. Standing next to carts is not in the Bible. And the false predictions and all that stuff. They're trying to loosen up the rules to see if that's going to help. And I don't think it will, because I was saying before that no cult has ever survived exposure. It's never survived being outed on the internet. Scientology didn't survive. Scientology was a cult. There's got to be something wrong with you to be a Scientologist now. Scientology did not survive. Scientology is crippled. Scientology will never be a dominant religion. It's crippled. It's been outed on the internet, right? The what is that called? the Heaven's Gate cult. There are people who did not kill themselves with Applewhite. I can't remember if it's Marshall Applewhite or what his first name was, but there's people who did not kill themselves and are still trying to keep that thing going. That freaking cult has been all over the news. It's been outed. There's been documentaries made. They will never survive that. The Branch Davidians, they'll never survive the exposure. Jehovah's Witnesses, believe it or not, I think have been exposed more than any of them. YouTube, you can't type in the word Jehovah's Witnesses online without seeing them being exposed. So if no cult on the planet, put one in the chat, if you can think of a cult that has been exposed everywhere online and still managed to grow and become dominant and what have you. It's never been done. So with Watchtower copying off of other cults and using, things that they've seen other people do, no one's ever survived the backlash that Watchtower has gotten because of the shunning and disfellowshipping and breaking up of families and essentially pissing a lot of people off. Somebody keeps saying, please answer Dark Masculine above question, and even Dark Masculine saying he didn't answer no question. But no cult has survived it. The LDS church hasn't had a major, they don't have a major event. You know what I mean? They're not making a bunch of false predictions, to my knowledge, that has outed them or exposed them in front of large numbers of people. However, the FLDS did have an event where the FBI had to come bust in and rescue a whole bunch of kids because they were marrying them off at super young ages. Once that gets out, they will never recuperate. They'll never recuperate. Somebody said Watchtower's end is near. Tammy, I think the end is now. They've eliminated the entire reason for Watchtower's existence. Not inspired nor infallible. Not going door to door anymore. Can't predict the end of the world or Armageddon. What else you need the cult for? They've eliminated the reason to need them. Somebody said, I will never forgive the org for breaking up my family to the point it isn't repairable. I don't think that there's a way that they can fix that. Because for some people, even if their family came crawling back to them, you still can't forget what happened. Some people have been shunned for years, and you can't really fix that. So I would agree. But the good thing is that Watchtower has been exposed online, I think, more than any other cult. There is a whole community of people constantly exposing Watchtower. There's people who that's their job. There's people who don't work. All they do for a living is expose Watchtower and make videos about Watchtower. Like, holy crap, we've got more people exposing Jehovah's Witnesses and the Watchtower cult than any other group. Like, there are people who talk about the Catholics, right? They talk about the Catholics, but the Catholics can debate with Protestants. The whole Protestant going back and forth with Catholic thing, The Catholics can debate with the Protestants. The Protestants can debate. Jehovah's Witnesses cannot debate their false predictions. They don't have an answer for that. Jehovah's Witnesses can't debate them stating that the door-to-door work is how the preaching work is supposed to be accomplished, and then after COVID, them stopping that. They can't debate these things. They don't have an answer. They're literally left looking stupid. So Jehovah's Witnesses, I mean, it's over. Jehovah's Witnesses at this point is essentially just a social group. It's a social group. That's all it is. It's a social group. It's a group that people, I think, are a part of because they're friends with people inside that group and they don't really know how to make friends outside of it. Or they don't know a lot of people outside of the cult. So I think that Watchtower is already over with as far as its ability to do what it could do in the past. And that scared a bunch of people. If y'all remember when 9/11 happened, when you saw those planes fly into the buildings, what was it, the World Trade Center and all that? Mm-hmm. When you saw the planes fly into the World Trade Center, Kingdom Halls were packed because Watchtower was saying the end of the world was near and people still believed it. So when they saw that, they're connecting it with what Watchtower said and they're rushing to the hall because they're thinking that Watchtower has the ability to predict the end of the world. If something like that were to happen again today, you ain't going to see people flooding into the hall because they can't predict the end of the world. There's no connection. There's no fixing the damage Watchtower's done to itself, A, and then B, there's no fixing the damage that has been done by whistleblowers like us. There's no fixing that. There ain't a beard that people can grow, or not wearing ties ain't gonna fix that. It's literally a social club. It's the Watchtower Social Club. I don't even think it should be a religion anymore. So I believe Watchtower is over with. They're ordinary. There's nothing special about them at all. Other people know about the word Jehovah. That don't make them special. There's nothing special about them. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, Godly Beard. Their glory days are over. Watchtower was powerful back in the day when people were afraid that they were inspired and they were the one and only true channel and they could predict the end of the world. Once you have removed that as a, they can't do that. Everybody knows they can't do that. There's no fear of it. There's no connecting directly Jehovah to Watchtower. There's nothing really to connect it other than them just using the word Jehovah. There's nothing to connect it. Yeah, information age and immediate information got them. That's a good point, B. Harry, because that affected a lot of churches. That affected a lot of churches because back in the day, you would have a bunch of stories.
Just saying hi.
Back in the day, you can move over if you want. Back in the day, there was stories about Fatima. I don't know if you heard the Catholic Church and the story about Fatima and about people seeing visions and all this stuff. Well, now everybody got a cell phone camera. Everybody's got cameras now. Once that happened, we ain't heard about no visions and the Virgin Mary appearing and all that stuff, none of that stuff has been happening anymore because now everybody got the camera where they can show if it happened or not. Somebody said they like your tattoos.
Thank you.
I can't think of. I'm gonna get it. I would get a tattoo, but I can't think of nothing to get. I want to just get something just to get something. She got something unique. I can't think of nothing.
Yeah, like upside down triangles.
There's nothing wrong with being a type of person who you want to be sure about something. Because some things you can't be 100% sure about. So, for example, with religion, there's a lot of people that say, like F religion, because if you can't be 100% sure, you know what I mean, I'm not with it at all. Or like spirituality and all that stuff. If you can't be 100% sure and show me and all that stuff, I can't rock with it. But here's the crazy thing about it is, to a certain extent, science is like that. Like science can't guarantee certain things. Like, for example, it can guarantee some things. But for example, there's people that go to the doctor, and the doctor is not a doctor is not a religious person or spiritual person. A doctor is technically like a scientist, right, of the human body, and they can't guarantee certain things. You know what I mean? Like they can be like, try this and then give me a call, or we'll take some tests. You know what I mean? And then we're gonna go with it, whatever what the tests say. Like there's people that have been misdiagnosed. There's people so people can screw up even in science. You know what I mean? People can screw up even in science. There's been people that have been given medicines and the medicines made them worse. You know what I mean? So
I'm sorry.
It's
funny.
What?
If they only knew what my last name was, I would never tell them, but still. They're talking about darkness and black and this and that.
I'm missing all this stuff talking about darkness and black. Who is they diagnosed you as a psychopath?
They diagnosed me as a psychopath, but I'm not.
Somebody said they gave birth to
The dark
light.
gave birth to light. Yeah.
There ain't nothing wrong with dark. Like
No.
that's a metaphor. That's a metaphor. Dark and light, like literally.
It's all right. Don't even worry about it. Keep doing your thing. We're not here for this.
No, I'm just saying it's just a metaphor. You know what I mean? Dark and light is a metaphor. It's like when people talk about that, they're not talking about the light literally being on in the house. They're talking about something completely different that don't really have nothing to do with light or dark. You know what I mean? So that's what I mean. It's interesting, but you know what I mean? It's everybody is allowed to explore and try different things as far as spirituality and what have you. And you don't have to meet the approval of other people, especially if your family's shunning you anyway. Sociopath is created, psychopath is made. Is this about XJW? No idea how I landed here. Yes, about XJW. I've been talking about the changes. Watchtower. The changes are essentially Watchtower eliminating the need for the organization. When they eliminated the whole being inspired thing, once they eliminated the door-to-door preaching is the main preaching work, once they eliminated their ability to be able to predict the end of the world.
Last minute salvation.
Yeah, and they add last minute salvation. That's a good point. Once you add last minute salvation, oh, we can jump in the ark at the last minute when it's flooded. There ain't no freaking need. They just literally eliminated the need to go to the hall. You ain't got to go to the hall, even according to them, until the last minute. You can jump.
Signs.
Yeah. You ain't got to go to the hall. So why would your family can't even shun you based off of not going to the hall now, because Watchtower says it's okay to wait until, you know what I mean? People can come in at the last minute. Watchtower literally said people can come into the last minute. So what's the purpose in shunning at this point? Right. The end has been coming for 140 years. Some XJW turn born again. That's true. I know people who are XJW are Catholic, and I know people who are XJW that are non-denominational. Some people go to the Baptist church, and to a certain extent, you know what I mean? It's you go where you want to go. But I can't tell you what doctor to go to. I can't tell you which dentist to go to. You make that decision. I can't tell you which grocery store to go to. I can't tell you which church to go to. Somebody said they worship that N-word in the sky. I thought most of them worship white Jesus. White Jesus in the sky. Same prison, different cell. No, I wouldn't agree with that. Because there's a vast freaking difference between Watchtower and pretty much most other churches. A vast freaking difference. So, I mean, that's like comparing solitary confinement to open population. Like it's a big difference. Watchtower is like freaking solitary confinement. You ain't allowed to think for yourself. They just allowed people to start growing beards. Regular churches, you grow a beard if you want to grow a beard. Dress up if you want to dress up. Don't dress up if you don't want to dress up. Heck, Catholics are in and out in less than 40 minutes. Like their services ain't even an hour a lot of times. People just, you remember that thing where they were saying that the elders were going to be princes? You know how goofy that was?
That's funny though, Mr. Smartmouth, because that's like at the assemblies, everyone took the edge seats, the aisle seats, and the middle ones were like the undesirable seats. So it's like you come in late, you get the middle seat. Yeah. So I get it. It's funny though.
That is a good joke. I didn't get it until late. Oh. It has a compute with me. So yeah, you can debate in other churches. Like other churches are, there's a vast difference. That's the reason why it's hard for a lot of people to leave the Jehovah's Witness cult and not join another cult, because they're used to not having freedom and they're used to being told what to do. Churches ain't going to tell you what to do. So a Jehovah's Witness coming right from the cult, if they didn't have any background with churches at all, they might struggle going to a church because, yeah, you go in there and you worship, and then outside of that, you study what you want to study, you read what you want to read, you know what I mean? Jehovah's Witnesses literally have a freaking regimen that they're telling people what to read and how to respond and everything. I went to a Baptist church. This was years ago. And the choir director wanted everybody for a specific, believe it or not, I was part of the choir at this church that I was going to. They wanted everybody to wear a black suit with, I believe, it was either a red tie or orange tie. This was the direction given to the choir. I'm sitting here at this choir meeting, and believe it or not, I'm coming from a cult, right? Coming from a cult to a Baptist church. Do you know how refreshing it was to sit here and listen to people in the choir and sit up here and say, what if I don't want to wear no orange tie? What if I don't have no orange tie? Why should I have to go buy one just to look like everybody else? I think we should be able to go up there and sing like we always sing. And then another person would agree with them. And eventually they just took a vote. They were like, okay, let's take a vote. You know what I mean? Because people are allowed to speak their mind in church. Unless it's a cult, the Baptist church I went to, people were allowed to speak their mind. If the church told you to do something and it ain't in the Bible, you ain't got to do it. And everybody in the church knew that. Jehovah's Witnesses, if Watchtower tells them to do something and it ain't in the Bible, like having been clean shaven and you ain't allowed to have no beard, everybody's going to do it without question, out of fear of being disfellowshipped and all kinds of crazy stuff like that. Churches ain't like that. Which one you laughing about? So I can look at it. Oh. Somebody says, imagine you get abused and you've been abused by this person for years and everyone is telling you every reason to leave, yet you don't leave because you love him. Every God worshiper in a nutshell. I don't know. I'd have to check your research. I'd have to check your research because that's true of cults. Cults are abusive, but I have gone to, and I can only speak from my own experience. I've gone to these freaking mega churches that have freaking Starbucks in the dadgum church. And that was years ago. It's no telling what the heck they got now. I went to a mega church because I got invited to a Christmas celebration. I went to this mega church. They have Starbucks in the church, official Starbucks, Panera Bread that's abuse. And then I went in the main sanctuary. The freaking thing was huge. They had a choir. That choir had to have 100 people in it. They were singing. They literally had special effects where they had the snow coming from the ceiling. Like, this was a show. Like, I enjoyed the show. Like, there are some churches that it's fun. Like, they put on good shows and what have you. So I wouldn't say that about all of them. I would say that about the cults and if there's some that are real strict, that might be true. Yeah, they got ATMs in this bad boy. I haven't been inside a mosque, I don't think. But you remember what I told you about, it's easy to jump into cults. I went and tried a lot of different things. I went to a meeting with the, what is that called? The Black Muslims, Farrakhan.
I'm not sure.
Nation of Islam. I went to a Nation of Islam meeting in Ohio. First you go in, they pat you down. I'm like, why I gotta pat everybody down? There ain't but 6 of us in this bad boy. They pat you down. I had a pen. I would always keep a pen in my jacket pocket, in my suit pocket. Don't you know, at the Nation of Islam meeting, they patted me down. They took my pen out of the pocket. If I had a pen, I could show you. Babe, could you grab me that pen? Then they took my pen out of my pocket, my suit jacket pocket, at the Nation of Islam meeting, and they did this with the pen to make sure it was a pen and wasn't a like explosive device or something I could use to stab somebody or something. I'm like, what the heck is going on here? And then I went in to the actual meeting. You had the men sitting on one side, the women sitting on the other side. And the speaker was yelling more than I yell. And it was pretty extreme. So, like, it was black and white. It wasn't no gray. It wasn't no ass. You know, you can question this and question. It was black and white. It was yelling. It was this. It was that. It was, we're going to do this. We're going to do that. So that kind of felt like Watchtower. To me, that's the thing, is people that come out of a cult are used to an abusive situation can feel comforting. I can imagine a person that's with an abusive guy. What if this guy tells them what to do, when to come home, when they can leave, if they can leave? Maybe it's something to do with not ever having to make a decision, and at some point losing the ability or the self-determination to see yourself as a individual, you know what I mean? And the ability to decide what you want to do. It's the same with Jehovah's Witnesses. They feel like a part of a beehive. They just do whatever they're told to do. And a lot of them are unhappy. Somebody said they worship the devil. The devil ain't, is the devil being good to you? I guess, I don't know. Somebody said, that's great for you. I'm guessing dark, masculine, karmic. I thought this was a black person. This goes to show what I know. It's probably not a black person. Typically, not all, but hadn't the whole worshiping the devil thing been more of a white thing, like a white culture thing, because of death metal and rock and roll? And
No, because you have the wrong idea. Everything is backwards in this dimension. Everything. It's like what's good is bad, what's bad is good. No one knows what's good and bad anymore. They've been taught that what's bad is actually good. I mean, yeah.
So you're not into Satan. You worship the devil, but you're not into Satanism. You're not a Satanist. I don't know what you can put what you are. So yeah, I think culturally wise, you know, that's been more of a white thing. Not saying it's a bad thing. It's just been part of their music. You don't see a whole bunch of black people making rap videos about worshiping the devil and headbanging to Lucifer and all that stuff. It's been part of the culture for the longest time. You remember Gothic and wearing all that black and all that stuff? Not that there's anything wrong with it. I'm just saying that that's been more of a cultural thing, more accepted. Okay, so you're talking about something else. You're probably talking about one of the Egyptian gods. Yeah, you're probably talking about Set, one of the Egyptian gods. Isn't Set the god of the underworld, or I got it wrong? The Egyptian god of the underworld? Is it Set or Osiris or something like that? Somebody say he is black. I don't even know if the Church of Satan is still active. Somebody says Gothism has nothing to do with Satanism. Who was that person who's saying sweet things are made of these? Who am I to disagree? Travel the world in the 7 seas. Everybody's looking for something. I can't believe I remember these lyrics. I remember the lyrics because a guy scared the crap out of me. He scared the hell out of me. My sister was watching a music video and somebody was singing the whole sweet things are made of these, and they had black lipstick on. They had, Marilyn Manson had a dadgum wedding dress. Was that Golf? Isn't that Golf, where he's got a wedding dress on and black lipstick and looking crazy? And I do not think I slept well that night after watching that freaking video. If that ain't freaking, that's not Satanism? Devil worship and Satan is a indigenous black god demonized in ancient time. Okay. Because it probably, I don't know if the devil was a bad guy until,
They made it so.
yeah, they
The
made
bad
it.
guy, the good guy.
They made it so, right? Because even in the Bible, wasn't the snake trying to help? You know what I mean? the so-called bad guy was the one saying,
it wasn't a freaking snake, but the snake didn't lie.
that's what I'm saying. The snake wasn't necessarily the bad guy until they said, oh, he's the bad guy. Subculture. Somebody said not white culture, subculture. Yeah, shock metal and all that stuff. Yeah, Marilyn Manson scared me, so I'm sure it would scare your parents. But yeah, if you're talking about ancient Egyptian and things like that, I don't think the god of the underworld was necessarily a bad guy.
No.
You know what I mean?
The thing is they attribute hell with the underworld, and that's how it got that.
Yeah.
But
Somebody says somebody looks like a French footballer. I'm guessing they're talking about me. Soccer? I've never played. I don't think I can play soccer. I can play soccer if I'm playing with a bunch of kids. I just kick the ball over their head. But yeah, honestly, if you were to talk to Jehovah's Witnesses, and you see how we're able to sit here and have this conversation, and it's okay, and nobody's getting mad or anything like that. We're talking about different beliefs. Somebody's talking about Satanism. We're talking about golf. We're talking about ancient indigenous religious concepts of, the underworld gods and all this. We're talking about all this stuff and everybody's okay. You know what I mean? We don't have to shun each other.
I'm everything, as you can see.
You know what I mean? So
I know you want to eat.
yeah, I'm starting to get hungry also. Just a surviving XJW here. I remember Rage Against the Machine. I don't know how I know all these. I know these songs because I think my younger sister would watch music videos all freaking day, every freaking day. So yeah, I remember Rage Against the Machine. Scroll up to, oh man, it's a lot to scroll. I forget what to do to once this posts so that all the comments are visible. I don't think Rage Against the Machine did not scare me, but freaking Marilyn Manson. Somebody says, what's the topic? I just got here. The topic was Watchtower eliminating the need for the governing body. If they're not inspired nor infallible, they're no longer going door to door like that anymore or directing a global preaching work like it was done in the Bible, according to Jehovah's Witnesses. And Stephen Lett said we were in the the final part of the final part, the last hour of the last minute of the last second of the last days. And he was wrong because we're still here. So you eliminate their ability they can't predict the end of the world. What's the need for them? There's no need for the governing body. They've eliminated the whole need for the governing body at this point. They have no special ability at all. Somebody says I was raised JW, but I came out of it when I got older and got into my own studies. No, I don't think they're talking about getting rid of the governing body. I was talking about getting rid of them. I was talking about, hey, if Jehovah's Witnesses just need a social group, Why the heck can't they just keep their little social group and eliminate Watchtower? They can keep the title Jehovah's Witness. Anybody could use the word Jehovah if they want to. You don't need Watchtower for that. Jehovah's Witnesses don't need Watchtower for anything. Yeah, Stephen Lett definitely made a fool of himself. But yeah, Watchtower is no longer the one and only true channel. According to the governing body, they're no longer inspired or infallible. They said that they don't feel the need to apologize when they get things wrong. And I think the reason why they don't feel the need to apologize is because they done told Jehovah's Witnesses. They've been told them, we ain't inspired, we ain't infallible, we screw up. And they still keep freaking listening to them. So even the governing body is like, well, if y'all crazy enough to if y'all dumb enough to keep listening to us after we done told you we ain't inspired or infallible, well, we shouldn't have to apologize for misleading y'all because y'all dumb enough to keep listening to us. Exactly. That was another failed prophecy by Stephen Lett. How would the governing body be the mediator between God and man? They would have had to have backed off of all that. If they're not even, remember the Australian World Commission when they said, the governing body members said that it would be presumptuous to even say that they were the only true religion. If they're not even standing on being the only true religion, how, or channel, if they're not standing on that, well, how the heck can they be the mediator between God and man? They're not even inspired. They had to have stepped down from that position also. So everything that they do is dumb. I saw some Jehovah's Witnesses standing next to carts, and darn near every time I see them, it's just women. Why they think that's safe, I don't know. Why you just have women standing outside. I don't know why they think that's safe. There was a news report of a guy who got shot while he was out in field service. So I don't know. I don't know why they do it. It's just dumb. Everything that Jehovah's Witnesses do is dumb. I saw people out by a cart today, and they were not in the best neighborhood, close to a bus stop. And they were just surrounded by people. None of the people wanted none of the crap on their freaking cart. But it's just not the safest place in the world. And it was nothing but women. The men are supposed to be what? The head of the congregation and all that stuff. Only men are allowed to be governing body members. Well, how come it wasn't no men standing outside protecting the sisters? They're just sitting out there by themselves. And that's half the time with this cart witnessing. It's just some woman out standing next to a cart by herself. Or a group of them standing out there by themselves. They wouldn't have been able to fend off none of the guys I saw out there. It was just a whole bunch of hood-looking dudes surrounding them people because they were by the bus stop. All these people had to wait for the bus. So millions now living will never die. Right? They've been BSing since Rutherford. If you have not read Crisis of Conscience was a huge part of what woke me up. I had an issue with how Bethel was treating people. And that was what initially caused me to question. But what opened it wide open was Crisis of Conscience. The book Crisis of Conscience, I'm talking, I did not watch no TV. If I wasn't at work and I wasn't asleep, I was reading Crisis of Conscience. That's probably the only book of that size I have ever read from just page after page until it was done. Crisis of Conscience, boy, I tell you, after I read that, I went from having all these questions because of just the pure BS I saw at Bethel. Guys kissing in all kinds of different areas and whatnot in Bethel. Is just like, hey, it's going to happen because you got a lot of people who are homosexual it's logical. It's logical that they would probably be more drawn to Bethel than they would be drawn to marrying a sister. So if you have people who are at Bethel and they're homosexual and there's a bunch of other guys there and they're spending years together, especially at Wall Killing, there ain't nothing else to do but be around it. Yeah, it's gonna go down. So after seeing all that stuff, yeah, I've been to Bethel. I was a Bethelite. I was at Wallkill Bethel, the farm. But after being at Bethel, I had a bunch of questions. But then after reading Crisis of Conscience, I was armed with knowledge. But you remember how to put this on where the comments show? Remember I was talking about this a long time ago, where I'll post it and the comments won't show.
Huh? I mean, yeah, you just have to say that you want the comments to show once it posts.
I'll have to figure out how to do that.
I'll show you once it's.
Yeah, I'll have to figure out how to do that because I done already mashed buttons and now I got stuff. Yeah, guys were kissing at Bethel. Yeah, of course they were. There's no supervision outside of so somebody once told me that once you come to Bethel, it's not what you think. As long as you show up to places when you're supposed to show up, you're pretty much on your own. Everybody's on their own. Everybody's doing what they want to do. The governing body ain't standing around watching people. So at Bethel, outside of work, you go to whoever's room you want to go over. If you want to have a sister over, if you want to have a woman over to watch movies at your room at Bethel, you can have them over. Outside after work, Bethelites do what Bethelites do. The issue is, roommates and not having money. So Bethel, after work, you would have people going out, going to movies, going to restaurants, just like any other job, but they don't pay anybody. So you have a bunch of people in poverty working for Watchtower. And yeah, nobody's watching anybody. I used to just go over different people's rooms, whoever I was invited over, I would go over there and we'd be playing Smash Brothers and stuff like that. And yeah, stuff would go down because there ain't nobody watching nobody. Even at your assignment, when you're working, there ain't even always somebody watching you while you work. So you got a lot of stuff going on at your assignment at work. At where I used to work in the warehouse, there were guys that, and I guess they thought it was funny, but after they had been at Bethel for years, this was my first year there. Heck, I had just become a regular Bethelite. So I hadn't even been there that long. So I'm taking everything seriously. I kid you not. We're in the warehouse working. These other two Bethelites, what they're talking about is if they had to sleep with a man at Bethel, you have no choice. You have to sleep with the man. Who would it be? This is the freaking conversation that they're having. And they're literally in this conversation thinking, yeah, I would smash the waiter. You remember such and such? Yeah, I'd smash that waiter. Who would you do it if you had? And then by the time they got to me, I'm like, I ain't listening to this mess. I ain't on that mess. Oh, heck no. I have not been at Bethel around a bunch of guys long enough to even start thinking that way. I guess that's what happens. You know what I mean? To some of them, I don't know. I don't know why they were talking like that, but they were talking like that, and I wanted no parts of it. I don't even think that they were gay. I don't know what that was about. Yeah, Destiny says, "Oh my goodness, that's crazy." So imagine you being in the minority. If you don't want to talk about who you would smash at Bethel if you had to sleep with a guy, you're in the minority. You're the one getting picked on. It's almost like a school. If you don't fit in with the quote unquote cool kids and do what everybody else is doing, you get picked on. Like there was a kid, a little white kid, and you know how close we came to fighting. I literally went to his room, and keep in mind, I was a full blown believing Jehovah's Witness, dedicated Bethelite. So I went to his room to just talk to him because all that he would grab stuff out of my pocket and go run off with it. Like we worked in the food warehouse, and he would bust bags of uh what's that white powdery flour? Bust bags of flour and then throw it on people. Like he was doing stuff, and it would piss me off. Somebody said they know there was another type of Smash Bros going on at Bethel. You better believe it. It's the truth. It's the truth. I don't say it to be funny at all. I don't think there's nothing wrong with people that, if that's their desire, let them do what the heck they want to do. Who cares? But it wasn't supposed to be going on at Bethel. And it was going on at Bethel. To this day, I like to go for walks to get my mind together. I like to just go somewhere and be somewhere different, and just because I to this day I still do it. I did it back then at Bethel. I would go for walks. I would go for walks at Bethel to try to get away from people at all hours of the night. Like super late at night, I would just go walk the halls at Bethel and just meditate and get my mind together. And at these late hours, you got guys coming out of rooms and they're looking at me looking all nervous and scurrying off and whatnot. And it was too much. It was too much. You can't cover all that stuff up. And I'm talking about Bethel has got a lot of office rooms, a lot of rooms that are not residence buildings or residence rooms, a lot of offices, a lot of rooms where they have meetings. You got people going in all these rooms doing who knows what and coming out at all hours of the night. Boy, I tell you, it definitely goes down at Bethel. The white powder wasn't crack cocaine. It wasn't powdered cocaine. At least I don't think Bethel was moving bags of powdered cocaine. That was flour. It was this kid that didn't want to be at Bethel, but his parents wanted him to be there, and he would just cut up. And everybody liked him. That's the thing, is he fit in. Not wanting to be at Bethel, not taking nothing serious, goofing off all the time. He fit in. The people who take it serious, they're in the minority. Definitely at Wallkill, they're in the minority. Somebody said they just joined trying to understand. We done went way off topic. Went way off topic. I was talking about Watchtower's changes and how they eliminated their own job, essentially. The governing body got rid of its own job. Their job was to be the one and only true channel. Their job was to be able to be inspired and be infallible and give direction. And their job was the door-to-door directing that preaching work and being able to predict the end of the world. They didn't got rid of or failed at all of them. There's no need for the governing body anymore. Jehovah's Witnesses can just keep the title Jehovah's Witnesses and just say, hey, they're a Jehovah's Witness, but they don't need Watchtower. They don't need the quote unquote governing idiots to tell them what to do. But yeah, no, Bethel, it goes down at Bethel. The only thing that limits what goes down at Bethel is how freaking poor everybody is. You ain't got money like that. So the people that do got money, they got all kinds of alcohol and beer and everything else. But the people that don't have it, the only reason they ain't getting drunk is because they can't afford to. And Donald Trump's voice, I don't know how to do Donald Trump anymore. I used to do Donald Trump, but yeah, the governing body pointed at themselves and said, "You're fired." They've no usefulness. They've eliminated their jobs. What is their job now? To just make stuff up, and what's their job? You can't trust nothing that they're teaching because they're not infallible. They can't predict the end of the world because they got Stephen Lett just got that wrong. I think it was something like that. Somebody's asking, did we get $100 a month? Yeah, we got a reimbursement, but you got to think about it. It costs money for gas and everything. When you go to your congregation, my congregation was Poughkeepsie. It was like an hour away from Bethel. And think about being an hour away from Bethel. That's your freaking source of food. $100 a month or whatever it was back then is not going to cover if you want to get something to eat while you're an hour away from freaking Bethel. There were times where I had to cut conversations short at the hall because I needed to get back to Bethel to get some freaking food. You know what I mean? To go eat. I got an hour to go back to go eat. You know what I mean? So, and it ain't like you think. It ain't like Bethelites all just get along with everybody at the hall and everybody just always going to be inviting you to dinner. It is not like that at all. There are a lot of halls that do not like the Bethelites that they have. And they do everything that they can to try to get rid of Bethelites. It's a whole nother world. Now, if people like the Bethelites for whatever reason, if you just in everybody's good graces, then yeah, I can tell you it was interesting. East Poughkeepsie, in my opinion, was more of a black congregation. I came from a black congregation. I went to Central Congregation in Ohio. I came from a black congregation. Originally, I went to Central. And when I went to Bethel, I just felt at home in that congregation. Because I'm black. Everybody else, for the most part, a lot of the people there were black or Latin or something to that effect. There was like a few white people there, you know what I mean? But these Bethelites that are coming from freaking Wyoming and just all this other stuff, there was one Bethelite that went to our hall that was talking about he was KKK and all this other stuff. I don't know if somebody black said something that made him mad, but this dude said he literally his words, this is a Bethelite, and this is at our assignment. He's in his freaking uniform for work. And the conversation he's having with another Bethelite is, I am KKK all the way, baby, is what he said as I'm walking by. And I stopped and I looked at him. And he looked at me. And there was so much crap going on at Bethel, I didn't even tell on the guy. It was too much freaking going on. I can't tell on everything. I'd be telling on 100 things a day. This is regular conversation at Bethel. This dude went to a black hall. So yeah, I don't think he felt as comfortable. There were people that liked him. But I don't think there was, initially, I think a lot of people like me. Because I'm trying to remember, but I think in my class, I think I was the only black Bethelite. The only male black Bethelite. And this was a black hall. So I think initially everybody liked me, but they find reasons not to like other people. For example, one of the people in my class, there was a guy who the Bethel elder went off on him because he didn't have money to give him for a ride to the hall. They made a freaking rule the Bethel elder made a rule that he was going to assign car groups so that people could car group to the meeting, but it was like $4 you had to pay $4 to get to the freaking hall. We freaking Bethelites. We ain't got $4. We ain't figured out how to do that yet. Well, he went off on this guy, and I think he was having a hard time, and he went to the meeting. And keep in mind, you get overwhelmed at Bethel. Bethel is freaking overwhelming. He gets to the hall, believe it or not, from Bethel and don't have the right book. So he can't comment because he's sitting there and he don't have the right book. So he's just sitting there looking embarrassed, like looking defeated. And ain't no people at the hall are cold when it comes to Bethelites. They're like, you are at Bethel, you are at Paradise. So if you're not on point, there's something wrong with you. So initially, I think everybody liked me, or a lot more people like me. But then I started having problems when my car broke down at Bethel, and the Bethel auto shop wouldn't help me get it fixed because it broke down before I could pass state inspection, and they wouldn't touch things that hadn't passed state inspection. I'm talking, they wouldn't even help you figure out how to fix it. I'm freaking at Bethel. You think I can afford to take my car to a regular freaking shop? To get it called and get it towed to a regular shop and freaking pay to get it fixed? Like, this stuff was insane. So believe it or not, the way I had to work at the warehouse, I couldn't leave work until all the trucks came in and they were done. So there were times I would freaking miss meetings. As a Bethelite, I couldn't get to freaking meetings. And they're never going to blame Bethel for not helping me fix my car. They're going to blame me. Oh, there's something wrong with you. So yeah, Bethel was crazy. Bethel was freaking insane. Somebody says they reckon something doesn't make sense to anybody else. Somebody disassociated last year. Congratulations. Somebody wasn't baptized. Oh, yeah, if you get baptized, you get shunned. I mean, if you want to use it for a social group, I don't know why anybody would want a social group where you know everybody will turn on you in the drop of a hat. It's like defeats the whole freaking purpose of having a social group. And you associating with people you know will turn their back on you. I mean, that's a polar opposite of what the goal is. The goal is to associate with people that try to surround yourself with people that's going to have your back. Yeah, I'm an ex-Bethelite and ex-JW. Believe it or not, even if once you leave Bethel, you're an ex-Bethelite while you are a JW. Jehovah's Witnesses call you an ex-Bethelite. So then I became eventually an ex-Bethelite, ex-Jehovah's Witness. Somebody said that they were JW. I don't know if technically a person who's not baptized is a JW, though. I think they call them a publisher or something like that. I don't know if they're technically a JW. Because you haven't baptized yourself to the organization. You haven't baptized yourself to the cult. I feel bad for people that are trapped in it. Babe, what you making? It smells good. Corn. And we got some of that spread to put on the corn. We got two things of that spread. Hopefully none of them done got old. Unbaptized publisher. When I was an unbaptized publisher, I was like, I don't know, 7 or something like that. I was crazy young. Because you can be an unbaptized publisher and like give little short talks and stuff like that. So I think that's how they keep people who are not baptized feeling like they're uh, involved. But I don't know if a person who's not baptized, to them, if over a long period of time, if you ain't baptized, don't they start looking at you as bad association? That religion has caused a lot of people's families heartache. That religion is literally caused deaths because of the no blood policy. And then they even changed that around. Yeah, there's been people that have been suicidal from being shunned. And I can understand, because there's some people both parents were in it. There's people who both parents and siblings were in it, and they all turned their backs on them and all shunned them. That would be hard for anybody. Well, my mates at college, they say I should leave. Buddy, you stay in that mess if you want to and end up marrying one of them crazy JW women. I have a relative who they joined the religion. So here's the thing, and I don't know that they joined it just because of wanting to find a sister, but they thought the right thing to do was to marry somebody in the cult because, of course, Jehovah's Witnesses are all good. So if you marry somebody in the cult, they're going to do the right thing, and you're going to do the right thing, and everything will just work out. Boy, I'm telling you, it did not work out. And I'm talking, it was bad. I'm talking, she did not listen to him she didn't listen to him at all. She would go the heck off on him from my perspective for no reason, because I would be over there and all I would hear is her yelling at him and whatnot, just going the heck off on him, and I didn't even see nothing happen. She just going off on him. The whole concept that all these people in this cult are going to follow the rules and do what they're supposed to do, and people are in the cult so that they can marry somebody in the cult and they think it's just going to work out because they're in the cult. Boy, that is not true. And there ain't nothing you can do. It ain't what you going to do to make them. There ain't nothing you can do. So people have found out the hard way, thinking that joining a cult is an easy way to find somebody that's going to marry them and whatnot. Boy, people find out the hard way. Because I don't know a single person who was a Jehovah's Witness. And so I'm not talking about people who were married before or together before becoming a Jehovah's Witness. I'm talking about people who did it after being in the cult. I don't know a single one of them that was happening. Not a single freaking one of them. There was one of them who flat out said their husband was abusing them. We were out in field service, and the woman and her husband were having some kind of an argument. I'm talking, they were having some kind of an argument, and each door that they would go to, they're just going back and forth, like not yelling, but they were having an argument. And they get back to the car, and the husband was like, go ahead and get in the car. And the woman was like, I don't trust you. He was like, get in the car. And there was another brother there and myself, and she's like, I think he's going to hit me. I really think he's going to hit me. And we're both, and then I'm looking, thinking, you got to be joking. Like, we're out in field service. And this woman is saying that she thinks her husband is going to hit her. Like, basically, he's refusing to get in the car first. He's wanting her to walk past him and get in the car. She didn't want to walk past him. She's standing further away from him, like out of arm's reach, saying he's going to hit me while we're in freaking field service. And we got to figure out what the heck to do. And don't you know the guy said, if I wanted to hit you, I would have hit you. And I know how to do it and not leave no marks. Don't you know he said that in field service? And later on, like that, to my knowledge, didn't work. Like, I don't think they're still together. But later on, it was just him, myself. It was all brothers in the car. And he was just speaking openly and freely, like openly and freely. And he was saying he got married. The reason why he got married, and I think this is the reason why a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses marry another Jehovah's, is they just feel like that's the right thing to do. They're trying to do it right. People think marrying in that cult is right, the proper thing to do. That's what they're taught. You're not supposed to marry anybody that's not a Jehovah's Witness. Marry somebody that's a Jehovah's Witness, it'll work out. Boy, it don't. It don't. There's a ton of people who are abusive, and what the heck you gonna do?
Be real. Most JWs, especially young ones, get married so they can have sex. And once they have sex, they realize they hate the person they married and they're stuck with them.
No, they weren't stuck. So Serenity was talking about a lot of young people getting married to have sex and to get out the house, and that's true. But the people I'm talking about, these are older, more mature, should know better type people. Like, these ain't just a bunch of 19, 20-year-olds. These are older people who married in that cult thinking that it would work out. There's a guy and his wife don't listen to him for jack. And I'm talking at all. You can forget about the whole head of the household. Who cares that it's in the literature? She ain't listening and she don't care. And then there's women who have guys that are, for her to be that afraid, he had to have done something physical before. For her to be that afraid in public, like she said, she thought he was going to hit her in public. And he didn't say that he wouldn't. He said if he wanted to, he would, and knew how to hide them, make it to where it wouldn't leave a mark. Because he, you know what I mean? It's crazy. It's crazy. So yeah, the people who are saying that they're Jehovah's Witness, the only reason I can think of people doing that, people join cults to make easy friends and all this other stuff, it ain't what you think. Be forewarned, it ain't what you think. And if you marry somebody in that bad boy, you may not ever be able to get out of it because they're going to try to keep your kids in it and everything else. I know somebody that married a JW and he left it, but she's still in. She still goes to the hall. She still comes back from the hall wanting to talk to him about what the heck they talked. Like, he can never get away from this now. So yeah, I mean, that is like pure hell from what I've seen marrying a Jehovah's Witness. You think that they're going to be all, submissive and all this stuff. Man, you wouldn't believe some of the stuff I've heard. Guys tell me their wives said to them. You wouldn't believe some of this stuff. And then as far as you think these guys are going to be all spiritual and whatnot, boy, you got full-on drunks. People used to come to the hall, you could smell the alcohol on them. But the woman married him because he was a Jehovah's Witness. And he was single. And she was single. And wasn't a whole bunch of male Jehovah's Witnesses that was single. So she married him, thinking that's what God wanted her to do. That's what you're supposed to do. And as far as what Serene was talking about, the people that would marry real young to have sex, the ones I remember, my friends when I was not super young, when I was younger, early 20s and stuff, my friends that got married, don't you know they were married for all of 2 weeks? Like, they get married and I'm expecting to see them come together in the car to the hall. I saw them come together to the hall like a few times. And then after that, they were divorced. And the guy was cool with it. I don't know what exactly happened, but it was a black brother married a white sister, and they were young, like they were like 19, 20. She looked super young. She didn't even look 19. Like, she looked super young. Yeah, I don't know how a person can get a divorce in 2 weeks, but they freaking did it. But yeah, I would not mess around and get married in that cult, because you are opening yourself up to everything everybody's talking about as far as your family being destroyed, because your significant other, they are more concerned about the cult than they are you. You are not the first priority. I can guarantee you that. If you marry a Jehovah's Witness, you are not the first priority. The first priority is Watchtower. Yeah, elders are pressuring you into making a bad decision. Don't you know a lot of these elders got married before they were in the cult? So they didn't just marry a cult member. They married somebody and then they were already together once they joined the religion. Because there ain't too many people that married a cult member that I know of and it worked out. Something happened. There'd be something that happened. And that's the only reason I can think of that people want to be in a cult knowing it's a cult. Because they think it'll be easier to do stuff like that. Boy, you about to learn. That's true. You don't have to pick another religion. People talk about they don't want to leave Watchtower because they don't know where else to go. You do not have to have someone telling you what to do. You are capable of praying, and if you believe God hears your prayers and can direct you and everything, you do not have to have a cult to tell you what to do. So you don't have to leave Watchtower and go directly to something. The concept that God will destroy you if you're not a part of some religion is not true. You definitely should think for yourself. Trouble in Paradise is giving good advice here. There's nothing wrong with being a Christian after leaving Watchtower. There's a lot of people that do it. My older sister uh, is involved with music for her church, and she live streams her church service every Sunday. And is happy. Like, she's happy. She's constantly posting about her church and going to church concerts and all kinds of stuff like that. Somebody said join the Bible students if you want something else that's similar to Jehovah's Witnesses. The Bible students are a lot looser. Like, I don't know that they shun or anything like that. It is just a smaller group. Some people might like a smaller group. I'm getting hungry too. Somebody talking about they about to get something to eat. I have not eaten today, y'all. I fasted. Literally, I fasted all day. I fasted. I needed to get my mind together, and I don't know. So I fasted today and just meditated today, and I felt better afterwards. I felt good, essentially. I'm not saying everybody should do that, but yeah, I'm getting ready to eat some of this corn Serenity got over here, boiling some corn and stuff. How do I set it up to where it'll show all the comments and stuff? Y'all, it's about dinner time. What y'all eating? I don't even know what I'm about to eat. I'm about to eat some corn. And I went and got some grapes earlier. I got grapes. I'm probably going to eat all of them bad boys. Yeah, old Watchtower books are like you're reading something from a different religion. Because it darn near is. They done left everything Charles Taze Russell taught. I think that Jehovah's Witnesses like to use the word apostate so much to deflect from the fact that they apostated. They apostatized from Charles Taze Russell. It's already messing around and doing stuff. So
It's your son.
yeah, it's time to eat. All right, y'all. Well, I'm getting ready to go have some dinner. It was nice chatting with everybody, having a nice open discussion. And if you joined late, I'll go ahead and summarize my points. Was that the governing body eliminated their own job, in my opinion. Their job was to be the one and only true channel. They backed off from that, so they're no longer the one and only true channel, so you don't need them for that. Their job was to give the proper food at the proper time. They're not, they just said that, they not just said, but they said they're not inspired nor infallible. They have announced this. So they are not guaranteeing anybody no proper food at no proper time. They feel like they shouldn't have to apologize because they told y'all they're not inspired nor infallible. So you ain't getting proper food at no proper time. You getting whatever they throw on the table. And they ain't going to apologize for throwing together crap because they just told y'all. Also, we hardly ever see Jehovah's Witnesses doing door to door. They're all standing next to carts or sitting. Some of them lazy and they just sit next to the cart. They don't even stand. So you don't necessarily need the governing body to organize no door to door preaching work. You ain't got to organize nothing for somebody to just stand somewhere. And also, before they would talk about Armageddon in the sense that they were able to predict when Armageddon would come. And they just flopped with that again when Stephen Letts said that we were in the last part of the last hour of the last minute of the last second of the last part of the last days. Well, that didn't come true, so you have eliminated their ability to do that. You don't need them for nothing else. They've eliminated the entire job function of the governing body. What else do you need them for? Jehovah's Witnesses run around talking about, well, we know the word Jehovah. You can know the word Jehovah and use it without the governing body. You don't need them for that. So the governing body is essentially useless now. There are a bunch of not inspired, not infallible, double chin
So if they're not inspired,
idiots.
Jesus can't be using their time.
Yeah, Serena just said it. Jesus cannot be using them if they're not inspired. If Jesus is directly using you for something, then you're inspired. So they just said they're not inspired. So Jesus is not directly using them for nothing. They're just coming up with this stuff on their own. And they're admitting to all this stuff. They've admitted to all this stuff. Yeah, jw.org is nowhere near like it was in the old days. Why? Because they have gotten rid of all of the things that used to identify them. Their identity is gone. They have no identity. Who are Jehovah's Witnesses now? They don't know whether to have a beard, not have a beard, wear a tie, not wear a tie, women wearing pants or not wear. Who the heck are they anymore? What are they even known for anymore? So my other point before I get off here was that no cult has, in history of cults that I'm aware of, has ever survived being exposed. Once what goes on behind doors in the cult becomes readily available online to anybody who wants to look up information about the cult, and they can easily find out that it is a false cult by just doing some basic research. No cult has survived that. None of them. None of them. Jehovah's Witnesses are getting hit harder than anybody else as far as exposure. You have to put Jehovah's Witnesses up there with Scientology as far as being exposed. So there's no way they're going to come back from that. No cult ever has. The only cults that are doing well, like the LDS Church, has never had, to my knowledge, any giant major catastrophe that has gotten out to the public and exposed them as being false. The only thing that they have had that they can't really fully recover from is the fact that they would not let black people up in their temples until like 1978. Like the whole slavery and all that stuff was over with, and Mormons was like, nah, we ain't backing off of this. We ain't letting y'all Negroes up in our temple. Take your black behinds on to somewhere else. So the Mormons wouldn't let black people, and that's why a lot of Mormons are all white. It was a white religion. Mormons used to teach that black people would become white and delightsome, nice and delightsome and white. Don't nobody want to look like no old, you know what I mean, big-headed white person. I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with white people. I'm just saying if you black, you typically don't want to become white. But the cult can't completely recover from that. A black person who is a Mormon has to have some way of explaining why are you a part of a religion that wouldn't even let you be in their temples up until 1978. I was born then. Like they would not let go of the racism until it was their dying, they had to. Brigham Young, I think, came up with some of that racist stuff. Black people were, the reason why people are black, the Mormons used to teach, is that they were not very good people in heaven. So when God sent them to earth, he made the people who weren't very good in heaven black, and the people who were good in heaven white. Like you weren't the you know what I mean, the best person in Mormons believe people were in heaven first and then came to earth after, became born into a person. So when they were teaching all this bad stuff about black people, they never recovered from that. You to this day, if you're black, typically you ain't trying to be a Mormon. They got a bunch of Mexicans, but you got Mexicans joining every daggum thing. So you don't have a whole lot of black people joining the Mormon church. The Mormon church haven't even overcome that mess up, that screw up. Jehovah's Witnesses have screwed up 1,000 times more than the Mormons. So they're not recovering from that. They're not gaining a lot of people. Mormons can gain other, white and Mexican and Chinese and everything else all day long. Or in Africa, anybody can get, Africans to join stuff. So yeah, in Africa you got more, but you don't have a whole lot of, that's been the stigma of that church, is not having a whole lot of black people because of not being able to recover from being exposed for that. Yeah, I love all races and I love good-hearted people too. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I don't think God would care, but racism was the thing back in the day, and the Mormons were riding that coattail. And to this day, they try to make up reasons talking about, well, black people wasn't ready to come to the temple. Well, what the heck do they mean black people wasn't ready? Well, how are white people ready to come into the temple if black people wasn't ready? What do they mean? You know what I mean? White people were involved with wars and civil wars, and some of them were involved with racism, and some of them were involved with slavery. So how are they ready to come into? That's the Mormon excuse for not letting blacks into the temple. God didn't think black people was ready to come into the temple yet. Well, why was they letting white people go into? It doesn't make any sense. My whole point is Mormons were exposed for that, and they never recover. There ain't a whole lot of black people just joining, wanting to be Mormons unless they just is something off, typically. And Jehovah's Witnesses, you ain't got a whole lot of people trying to join the Jehovah's Witness unless there's something wrong with them and they can't make friends regularly. Well, then they want to join a cult because, cults will be your friend easily. It's just they'll turn on you real easily also. So those were my points. Jehovah's Witnesses can't recover from exposure. Look it up. Do your research. No cult. Scientology can't recover. The Branch Davidians can't recover. Heaven's Gate can't recover. None of them cults that got the Moonies or whoever they were can't recover. They've been exposed, documentaries, everything's out. They can't recover from that. Jehovah's Witnesses are getting hit harder than anybody else. They can't recover. The tower is definitely crumbling. And with that, you guys enjoy the rest of your evening. Yeah, the Mormon belief was that black people turn white. You can't recover from that. So a lot of black people aren't on that. They're not going to, a lot of black people aren't going to join it. Yeah, they did. Jehovah's Witnesses also taught that in the paradise, black people would turn white. But that was an old. I don't think that Jehovah's Witnesses held on to it up until 1978. I could be wrong, but I don't think that they held on to it that freaking late. The Mormons held on to that for dear life. And one of the problems that they have is the rules that are made in the Mormon church are quote unquote made by a prophet. So if a prophet says black people can't come into the temple, it's God saying it. So they can't now go back on the rule. Well, they had to go back on that one. So that was a big mess up. I don't think the Mormons have had a whole lot of mess ups since then, but that was a big mess up where they flip-flopped. Now blacks can come into the temple. They had to get rid of it. Watchtower has had a flip-flop every freaking couple years, if not more. So yeah, they're not recovering from that because it's exposed. All that stuff is exposed. It's all online. So the Society of Imbeciles. Watchtower is the Society of Imbeciles. I don't even think they know what they're doing. So you guys can continue to keep up the good work exposing Watchtower. Boy, I tell you, I think they underestimated the damage it would do with all this shunning. But I'm getting ready to sign off here and figure out how to sign off so that the comments are still there so I can look at them. So, babe, I just sign off regularly. All right, you guys enjoy the rest of the day. X-Walk Hill Bethelite and Serenity signing out. Oops, finger all in the video.